Your grandpaps invented space emo.
Also, for those of you who think I drink too much coffee, fear not. I'm not drinking coffee. I'm drinking tea. Specifically, green tea. What else is green? Episode 3 is 20 years old. What the f***, man? Recently, they put the movie back out into theaters, and shocking to some, not so shocking to others, it absolutely killed at the box office. Like all the other prequel films, it's had a mixed reception since its release, but one thing that I feel like hasn't changed for most people is that it was the best one in the trilogy. Anyway, this is the start of a new series that I'm calling Off the Shelf. Logo sequence pending. And I can't think of a better way to start this series than to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Revenge of the Sith by looking at my prized DVD copy that I got the year it came out. Let's get started. Yeah, so this is a bit, but unlike most bits, it's not a bit and it's real. I was gonna review said DVD, make remarks about the goo that's on it from when my mom put a mail label on top of the cover so that people we lent it to would know that it was ours. Fellow DVD collectors know what to think and feel about goo. And then I was gonna move on to some additional paraphernalia just to reflect less on the movie and the physical DVD and more about the moment itself. Yeah, I can't do that first part. I have no goddamn idea where my DVD is. But I'll make do with some more reflection on episode 3 and how for, I don't know, a solid 3 years, it was the only thing I cared about. May 19th, 2005, I would tell friends and family that that's when this thing is coming out. I would write about it in school assignments about how my entire life was essentially leading up to what most of us thought was going to be the final Star Wars. Speaking of which, item number 1, this issue of Time magazine, aptly titled The Last Star Wars. This angle's too close, hold on. Seeing as Force Awakens itself is turning 10 this year, sheesh. That's nuts. It's odd for contemporary fans of Star Wars to consider something like The Last Star Wars. One of 3 times. The first time being, Return of the Jedi, once the trilogy was concluded and the story had been told. Oh, naive bastards were we. The most recent being Rise of Skywalker. I'll put it this way, there's so many spin-offs, there's so many TV shows, with or without a proper episode in the Skywalker saga, we all know stuff's gonna be continued at some point. I don't want to harp on the inner meta-politics of Star Wars and what it should be, what it used to be, what it could be. Between Mando and Andor and Starfighter starring my freaking baby girl right here. I'm glad that Star Wars is continuing. I'm glad it's a big thing that everyone and their dog and their mom goes out to see. But once upon a time, long ago, in a schoolyard far away, this meant what it said. Yeah, I believe one of my 5th grade teachers actually gifted me this issue of Time because he was a Star Wars fan himself, one of the OGs, saw it in theaters when it first came out. So when I grew into his class, he having known my older sister when she was my age at her time, that time, way back time past, we bonded over Star Wars, and we were hyped as all hell about this. He actually told me how a friend of his who worked on the film shared with him either concept art or a shot of Obi-Wan walking into the twin sunsets to become a hermit. Just imagine this dude in his mid to late 30s talking to little old me, the tiny noosk, the nooskest noosklet, about this big thing coming up with the same amount of reverence. Picking this thing up is like looking at a time capsule. One thing I do want to focus on that I believe is so vastly different from today's Star Wars, this here family tree of the Skywalker clan. The thing with the original prequels is they were telling a story that we all kind of knew already, just because, you know, I am your father, I'll never join the dark side, Vader throwing palps into the chasm, and him lightning exploding. Yeah, as far as, like, key plot points, you know, bar any details as to what happened to Anakin to make him go from this to this. Going into the movie knowing this wouldn't fly so much today. Spoiler culture and all that, or rather anti-spoiler culture. Like, one might argue that these layouts and hyperfixations on details and lore might have been what led to the sector of the fandom that really harps on what happened and when, or what had already happened before, and why this happened now. Fly through space, Leia Organa. I don't know, like, the way we would talk about and consume Star Wars was just so vastly different. We've got an article in here called How Star Wars Saved My Life by John Cloud. Movie review of Kingdom of Heaven. Yeah, that would have been new at the time too, I guess. I have like a handful of issues of Time magazine. Most, if not all, involve the Star Wars, funny enough. So it's cool to have a snapshot of 2005. That's as good as any way to do it, I guess. I can see why people, like, keep their entire back catalog of the stuff they're subscribed to. But yeah, reading this in my homeroom, because, yeah, he left it on my desk. Other teacher went into my homeroom and left this on my desk. I remember now. I'm not gonna get emotional. It's too early into the video to be doing that shit. One big thing that I am gonna read up on later is this interview with George, A Look Back and Wonder, where he talks about the influence of Star Wars, what he planned on doing after the prequels were wrapped, you know, which I guarantee mentions, you know, one of several dozen promises he's going to work on his smaller, artsier movies. Still waiting on a lot of those. You know, beyond Red Tails, which I heard was aight. Let's go on to the next item. The video game adaptation of Revenge of the Sith for the Nintendo DS. This came out on May 5th, so like a solid 2 weeks before the film itself came out. What makes this version cooler than the identical GBA version is these 3D shoot-'em-up dogfight levels that you could link up with friends and play wirelessly together. God, the DS was big time too. That had been out for a year by the time this came out. But I remember getting a lot of replay value out of this game. Like, the combat was satisfying, the animation was pretty good. It's cartoony and stylized, but it still felt like Star Wars. It kind of reminded me of the Super Nintendo games that I played growing up at friends' houses who had them. And in hindsight, you know, fun as this game was, this was 2 weeks before the film came out. And again, it is a story where we all know how it's gonna go, we just don't know the finer details. So, well before I saw the movie, I knew all the major plot beats. It's rated E10, so, the harder stuff, you know, functionally, like the Qui-Gon Jinn death. Stabby, no! Like, really melodramatic. It wasn't until you got to episode 3, the first PG-13 Star Wars movie, where, to quote my teacher who gave me the magazine, "That's a lot of hacking people, man!" And indeed it was, to the point where it kinda traumatized me. I was upset. I was visibly shook once I, like, told my parents and friends that I saw the movie, and they're like, "Oh, I don't think Dylan liked the movie that much." No, you don't misunderstand me. Star Wars is good all the time, always. And I had spent too many years of my life hyping this thing up in my head to say anything but it's amazing. But I would caveat it with, it's really good, but it is lethal. It is lethal. This movie was lethal. And I am now here telling you that it was lethal, because that's what lethal means. I meant brutal. I clearly meant brutal. But I got telling everyone, oh man, this movie's lethal. Anyway, let's wrap up with this graphic novelization of the movie, which is, you know, a pretty cool curio. I'm pretty sure I also, if I didn't buy it, I read the novelization. But this is interesting because it reinterprets all the major events in, you know, comic book fashion. The art, for the most part, is strong. They take advantage of the medium to give certain shots or plot beats a more dynamic energy to them, which, you know, is cool. Dark Horse has a long history with making Star Wars comic books. I want to say this is a compendium of like 4 or 5 issues. Oh man. Yeah, and I used to have the last one. I don't know if it's in storage somewhere or if I gave it away, but yeah, from what I remember, that had like a pretty metal cover. I can't stress enough how cool the artwork is. It's just, I don't know, movie adaptations in any form, they're more of a novelty than like a functional way to experience the thing that it's based on.
Merchandising, where the real money from the movie is made.
Obviously, not all of the panels are winners. Got some real what the fuck is happening type moments in here as well. Yeah, but those are Revenge of the Sith little items that I collected at the time. You're going out on a bit of a whimper here, so I'll get one more piece off the shelf. Not this shelf, a different shelf. But I do need proof that I actually got up to go get it, so let's mosey on over yonder, and where'd I put that? There it is. The hardest one to read because it's one of the older paperbacks on here. This here is an OG copy of the OG book in the Star Wars universe. Splinter of the Mind's Eye. Yeah, so during the last, like, week of school, this teacher, he pulled me out of class, and, yeah, he just handed me this thing and said it takes place between A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. And I just shook his hand like we were both adults and said thank you so much. And, yeah, I did a book report on this, later in middle school. Yeah, I want to say that was the last time I read it in full. I should read it again, because, truth be told, there's a lot of expanded universe or legends or legacy stories that, you know, a lot of people think are better than most of the movies. Yeah, there's just something so neat and vintage about this story, the packaging here, and it's got like a much pulpier quality compared to the movies. Somewhere I also have the novelizations of the first 3 movies that they put out, and I remember getting like a few chapters into A New Hope, and the details of the combat were much more lethal, brutal, than what you see in the movie. In the movies, it's pew, stock scream. In this one, it was more smoke and the fumes of burnt flesh filled the room. Shrapnels of bone flew through the air as blasters landed on their target. Stuff like that. Like, it didn't fuck around, really. Seeing as it was ghost-written by the same dude who wrote this, I'm sure the language probably hits a little bit more. In the climax, both Luke and Leia fight Vader, and they both get their asses handed to them, because it's still, like, really early in Luke's development as a Jedi. Yeah, this set a precedent in smaller, yet still arguably important stories in the saga, and I think this is from the original pressing of it. And this dear teacher of mine, 1978, my teacher gave me this copy. It's good to find older people who get how you're wired, even if you're as unhinged as I was at the time. Yeah, it was just nice to reflect on a simpler, easier time, and, you know, picking up these little artifacts and showing y'all the kind of stuff that I surround myself with in this here abode of mine. Creativity and passion for things is most nourished by a strong library. I do truly believe that. Yeah, hopefully when I make more of these, the style and pacing will crystallize, and hopefully when I make more of these, I'll have the fucking DVD that I wanted to talk about. Again, that was a bit, but it wasn't a bit. I picked all of these things out, I organized in my head what I would talk about and how, and then the centerpiece, like the spine for the whole video, isn't there. So I'll be tracking that down soon, hopefully. Maybe it's at my folks' place, maybe it's in storage somewhere. But for the time being, it's not where I put it. But thank you all so much for watching this episode. Happy Revenge of the 19th. I don't think it has a proper name, these anniversaries. I'm gonna drink the rest of my tea. Remember to crush the resistance, because that's obviously something I believe in as a fan of Star Wars. That's weird that there's merch for space fascists that you can just buy or give to your friends as gifts. Thanks, Teach. for the knickknacks. Thanks for supporting my nerd love for this silly, silly franchise that's bigger than ever, for better and worse. Mostly for better, in my opinion, but what do I know? I stopped being a diehard years and years and years ago, but god damn it, do I love it enough to make a video like the one you just watched. Subscribe if this did anything for you, and keep tabs on the Lanooski channel for more entries in Off the Shelf. You motherfucker, it was the last shot. It was the last shot. You couldn't record for like 2 more seconds for the last shot.